Yeah, like that was one of the biggest things I felt as a kid was I felt so alone. Like, I mean, yes, I had my sisters with me, we were going through it, but like you feel so lonely when you're in this experience of there's, nothing to do. Nobody understands. Nobody's talking about it. Nothing's happening. Nothing's changing.
This week's guest is Jennifer St. John. Jenn's podcast, The Shadows We Cast, delves into the lasting effects of mental health issues through generations. She shares her personal journey having grown up with a mother who's battled addictions and mental health challenges. By inviting her sisters to join the conversation, Jenn aims to create a comprehensive view of their shared experiences and the ripple effects they have on each other's lives.
Yeah, so my lived experience is that my mom was, had addiction and mental health issues like my whole life. And so what I did in the first season is I brought my two sisters on intermittently. And we kind of, because I felt it was important to kind of give the foundation of, why I'm even doing this. I've publicly spoken about mental health since 2016, but this is the first time I kind of did the podcast thing. I used to be a film and television producer, like 14 years ago when I was in Toronto. So it was definitely something, that was on my radar, but I was just too busy with other stuff. So I wanted to, it's very similar to lots of people's mental health podcasts in that I have my own lived experience, but then I bring on, public figures or mental health organizations or mental health professionals or other people who are willing to share, their lived experience. And it's just really about trying to, like, especially when I was born in 76, so I'm 50 next year. So things were very different then. Not to say that they're, amazing and great now, but we're definitely better than we were.
Wait. You were born in 70s?
76. So next year I'm 50.
Oh, right. I was born in 77. I'm like, I'm not close to 50. And I'm like,
yes, you are.
Right. My birthday's next month, actually. Yeah, right.
You're just behind me.
Man, you're not making me feel better. Doesn't matter. But yes, things were different. Sorry, things were different. Go ahead.
Things were different. And I think the very first step is being able to talk about it openly and honestly. And I know it sounds very cliche, but I think that unless you've gone through it, you don't understand how important that is. And so I, again, just try to be a part of that voice.
Well, I saw a stat a little while ago. I'm going to screw the numbers up because my memory is trash, but it was something like, if you talk about your suicidal ideation or thoughts of suicide, it's like 70% chance less likely that you'll actually attempt or something like that. Yeah. I don't know if you know that stat or if I screwed it up.
I don't know that stat, but I completely understand why it would be that high. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to go public speaking. You could just
talk
to a friend.
Yeah. Talk to anybody about it. Yeah, absolutely. It's taking the shame out of it, right? Especially the shame out of just having the thoughts or the feelings. I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think. Like, we all have a brain, we all have mental health, but, there's lots of reasons why there are some people who just, can't talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, for many reasons, it's good talking about it.
It is. Venting, right? There's nothing wrong with venting. We all need to be able to vent. And we're not perfect. Some days we have shitty days.
Right. I love the name, The Shadows We Cast.
Well, so I called the podcast The Shadows We Cast because I mean, based on my experience, and I imagine everybody's, I'm sure all of your guests have talked about this in different ways, but we all walk through life with our own stories, but we're also imprinting our story on everybody around us. And so that's why I called it The Shadows We Cast, because the ripple effect of being raised by a parent with addictions and mental illness was huge. And so, you have to do your own work as an adult to make sure that, you're not passing that on, or you're, kind of figuring your own stuff out so that you can, again, cast a shadow that is hopefully healthier than what you were shown.
Yeah, it's that old saying, hurt people hurt people. I was just thinking about this last night, I think, maybe this morning. Generational traumas, and then you try to do better than what your parents did and all this stuff. But you would think after how many generations of humans is there on Earth
Yeah.
that we'd all be kind of perfect at it now because everybody's kind of did a little bit better than their parents. But yet, no, we're still. Well, it's almost like you sometimes well, I find I overcompensate maybe for something that I didn't like as a kid that my parents may have done, and then that causes a whole other thing. Like
It
there's no,
does.
it's like God damn it, when are humans going to be perfect parents?
Well, we're never going to be. I think the human experience is just to figure it out, right? But there's a level of healthy emotional regulation figuring it out and unhealthy emotional regulation figuring it out.
Oh, I'm going to write that down. Okay, good. I'm going to Google that later. Maybe AI could just parent everyone for us.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
Oh,
no.
that'd be sweet. Boy, would that be sweet. So I am a parent who has, well, I mean, I still have mental health issues. What's the date today?
November 4th.
In 2 days, I'll be 9 years sober.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm a bit like your mom. Did your mom ever get sober when you were younger or anything, or was
My mom
she?
never got sober. My mom definitely reduced coping mechanisms that were unhealthy, and did eventually. She was in her early 50s when she sought some psychiatric therapy and medication. So yeah, so from I was in my 30s before that happened.
Was she ever diagnosed with anything?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The biggest one was bipolar. Um,
Oh,
and then there were a couple of sub ones as well, like PTSD and, yeah, like they were kind of smaller. I mean, bipolar is one of the, one of the biggies. So yeah, like we moved over 25 times before I was 18.
good Lord.
Yeah, massive amount of instability.
Where was your dad?
In and out.
I see. And
Yeah.
look at you. Do you have a family?
Yep. I've been with my partner since I was 20 for 30 years, and two kids, 13 and 16.
Have you lived a normal life? I'm assuming you have. You seem normal. A normal adult life?
Well, we all eventually get there, don't we?
No, not everyone.
I've done a lot of work, Todd.
Like what?
No, I just mean I've done a lot of work to process,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, it's like, so yeah, for sure. I mean, my 20s was a roller coaster. Like, kind of get spit out of this life and you're just like, what? And trying to figure out your own life. And I had so many things I was dealing with. Like I was in massive survival mode for my entire childhood. So my fight or flight instinct was huge. I was hyper vigilant about everything. I was very independent. Yeah, no, I had a lot of stuff that I had to deal with in my 20s. So I would say that my 20s was kind of a lot of, reading and therapy and being really open to things and just processing things. And my sisters and I talk about stuff all the time. And when my mom was okay to talk about stuff, not that she really wanted to go very deep about anything, and she wasn't really dealing with anything at that point, but you could sometimes have some conversations with her. That was helpful. Al-Anon, I joined Al-Anon. There was a lot of drug use and alcohol use, but a lot more alcohol use. So Al-Anon was a big, big, big help. Just trying to realize or trying to get to the point where, it's the disease and not the person. Like that's a huge, huge why in the road when you're dealing with a loved one or somebody in your life who has addiction issues.
Do you think addiction is a disease?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I don't know if I do.
Well, I think that some people are more apt to fall into addiction than others. And so I guess I call that disease because you wonder what the difference is. Like even, like there's so many people that look at how we were raised and they're shocked that we didn't go down this road versus that road. Right. I do really wonder why that happens. Um,
Right. Like a mix
how
of
much,
nature versus nurture. And
yeah. And maybe just how much each person can take, how much each person can handle. And then also genetically, is there predisposition to addiction? Um, so yeah, maybe disease is the wrong word, but that's like, I definitely feel like there's a reason why, that happens for one person, it doesn't happen for another. there's so many behaviors that come with addictions that are not the person. And so it felt good for me when I was in my 20s to get to that point where I could start to learn more about addiction and realize what was the addiction versus what was my mom. And then again, had to do the same thing for the mental health, right? So it was like really trying to get underneath all of that to figure out who is my mom and what is my mom aside from the bipolar and aside from the addictions. That's a lot to unpack. I moved out west for 7 years. I met my, now husband, then boyfriend. And I was like, I am out of here. And so I left for 7 years and went to Edmonton. So that was a part of a coping strategy for me as well.
It's easier to reflect on your parents' behavior when you're not around them. Maybe.
I mean, trust me, she still was in my life quite a bit more than I wanted her to be at times.
Yeah, I've never actually discussed this before on the podcast about whether or not addiction is a disease, but also I don't know. I don't know if it matters we use the word disease or not anymore. I think people just need empathy in general.
Absolutely. And that's part of like we were talking about before, like having a level of awareness where you can talk about mental health. Like I feel like there's a lot of ignorance and there's a lot of fear. But I think that if you educate yourself and it takes the shame out of it for everybody as well, then that's where the compassion comes in and that's where the empathy comes in. And just because you don't know it's not your life or you don't, there's no direct impact, even though you can't tell me you don't have a direct impact of addiction and mental health. I just think that that's part of the problem too. I still have people in some closer circles that can't talk about mental health. And it's just baffling to me, baffling. They talk about it in a way that isn't educated. They talk about it in a way that very much comes from either, like the societal.
It's a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Snap out of it. Like all that bullshit. It's just like, come on, it's 2025. Are we still there?
Yeah, it is frustrating, definitely. Because I mean it's like telling someone, well, just don't have diabetes.
Yeah.
Drink your soda better.
Yep. And that's exactly what I say. Like when I'm trying to talk to people about it, it's like you should be able to talk about mental health the same way you talk about cancer and diabetes and heart disease and all of these things. Because why is it that just because it's now happening in the brain, that's the organ, it's, somehow, it's faux pas or it's whatever. And again, it's getting better. I mean,
It
it's
is.
definitely getting better, but we have a long way to go. I don't know if this little town that I live in, well, I mean, it's considered a city, but we had this recent emergency where there was a very large homeless population or unhoused population. And for some reason, it was growing and growing and growing. Of course, this brings out lots of commentary and lots of ideologies on what to do. And it's interesting having conversations about the mental health and addiction side of that population. You have to go back and figure this out. It's like it's not just a band-aid solution of let's move them here. It's like why, and obviously not everybody. This is like the group within the unhoused population that are dealing with addictions and mental health. How did they get here? Like it's like going back and trying to figure out at what point should somebody or something have been in their lives so that they aren't getting to this point. And it just feels like sometimes we're only dealing with that part of it and not going back and trying to figure out, the foundation part of it.
Yeah, it's very reactive and not
Yep.
proactive, no preventative, nothing. I have a question about your mom. You
Yeah.
said she had PTSD and stuff. I'm assuming with the growth you did in your 20s and probably 30s as well, you found some empathy for your mom and what was her childhood like and what were her parents like?
Okay. Okay. I'll first answer the first question. So it took me a long time to get to the point where I had empathy for my mom. Yeah, especially because like our life was just so chaotic and unstable. And there were so many, I mean, all anybody saw was the addiction with my mom. Like obviously bipolar wasn't even a term when my mom was first exhibiting signs of this. So it was a lot of super high highs and a lot of super low lows. We were put in a lot of unsafe situations. There were a lot of men in and out of our lives. We moved constantly across Canada. We moved into the US illegally and moved across the US and back. Like it was very rash, knee jerk, manic decision making. there was, everybody jokes about being raised in the 80s. We'll be raised in the 80s with an alcoholic parent. And it just has a whole other level to, you know, just you were on your own. It felt like you were on your own. Uh,
Undiagnosed bipolar alcoholic
on
mother in
top
the
of that,
80s.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And obviously we adored her. We loved her to death. But, the older we got, like I was 6 when I started to have sleepovers at, like, obviously I sleep over to my cousin's places, but like as a friend. And I can remember having dinner at a friend's place and helping to set the table, and their knives weren't burnt because my mom would use our knives to smoke hash. And so she'd put them under the elements. And that was a normal in my house. And so it wasn't until getting to school age and getting out there that you kind of were like, oh, so this isn't the way everybody's living. Um, and so, there's obviously, like, we loved her. We tried to keep her safe. We were parentified at a very young age. So it was a lot of, making sure, like, looking out for her, trying to keep her safe. Um, but then, of course, you get to a point where you get tired of it. And, especially after the 10th time you've asked her to stop, or you've asked her to change the way that things are, that you just feel unsafe and you just know that things could be different. And it's not just for us, it's for her too, right? I mean, so yeah, you go through lots of emotions, and there's lots that you have to deal with when you leave the house and when you kind of come out of it. And she's on her own roller coaster ride, like multiple accidents, like broke her neck when I was 20, was in Sunnybrook Hospital. Like literally it was her C2, and she was told that, if it hadn't have spiraled when it broke, she would have been paraplegic or dead. Like, and this is, I mean, the umpteenth time she totaled a car, right? Like there was so much that we were having to deal with. So you get tired, and, you have to protect yourself. You get to a point where you're like, I have to protect myself. You have to start to set boundaries. And that's very difficult when it's somebody so close to you like that. And it's also difficult when other family members or people in her lives don't think you should be doing that, because everybody has their own way of dealing with things. And so it really wasn't until I was, like I say, kind of late 20s, early 30s, that I had enough information and education about what she was going through. And we had a little bit more of an idea of the bipolar, that I would say there was compassion and empathy, but you're also still like, just could you just deal with your shit? Like, there is that side that it doesn't matter how much you love them. You're also just like, this is hurting you and it's hurting me. And I don't understand why you can't do something about this. Um, and so there were boundaries set in place that were like, I didn't see her for about a year and a half. And it was very, very hard to set that boundary and to get to that point. But that's when she got the help that she ended up getting, that really for the last, what we didn't know, but was the last 10 years of her life, that set her up for the way that those 10 years were lived. And so I think that, like, the moment she was able to say, okay, I have a problem and I'm trying to deal with it, a lot changed. Because, I mean, we wanted to help her deal with it. We wanted to do anything we could to help her. And so all of a sudden, that group around her then became her cheer squad and her, support system. And, and obviously it doesn't mean it's going to be like a trajectory that's just going up. Like, there's ups and downs, and there's always going to be, but there's a difference of dealing with her after she was open enough to say, I know I have a problem and I'm going to deal with it. I'm trying to deal with it. We could talk, we could have conversations about things. Her bad days, she was more open about. If she couldn't get out of bed, she could, like, there was just a communication changed. And so the support changed, and, it felt like she was being honest and transparent. And so, yeah, I mean, it had a ripple effect through every relationship in her life. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like, I mean, we all come into adulthood with our own childhood, stuff. And I mean, she was born in the 50s, to a baby boomer family. She was one of 12, very, very Catholic family.
Well, that'll do it right there.
I was raised Catholic too. um, And then she ended up pregnant at in high school, which at that time was a very, very big no-no. And so she basically was, kind of they were forced to get married, right? Didn't work out. And then
Hey, I gotta tell you, having a podcast isn't all that easy, especially in this day and age when trends and things are changing so quickly. I can't keep up with it, and honestly, I don't like doing it. I like the creating part. That's why I reached out to Carrie Hyman. She's the genius behind Your Voice Consulting. With more than 25 years of experience in communications and engagement, Carrie helps organizations connect with purpose and clarity. Known for her practical approach and steady leadership, she's built lasting relationships across industries and communities, guiding teams to communicate with confidence, empathy, and impact. And I can tell you, she is a long-term good friend of mine, and all of that is 100% true. So if you have an organization or a corporation of any kind, and you're spinning your tires, or you're needing some extra help, some advice, I'm telling you right now, go to yourvoiceconsulting.com and contact Carrie. One thing I've learned through my experience with mental health and addictions is you never know what you need to hear until you hear it. Make sure to rate and review on Apple and to tell as many people as you can about the podcast so others can hear something they need to hear from one of my guests. After all, this is a free mental health service, which is a rare thing, so why not share with as many people as you can?
So my mom had my oldest sister at 17. And then she lost twin girls, unfortunately, about 2 years later. And then she had my sister and myself. So by 24, she'd had like 5 girls. And I mean, I would say that her mental health started in her early 20s. Like even when I was like not even in kindergarten, we were living out west at the time. And like she would pull us into the vehicle and drive around all night looking for my dad, who was working on the oil rigs somewhere. Right. So the mania was there, like even at a very young age for us. Going back to what we talked about earlier, is that like I'm a big proponent of, you don't have control over, obviously, we don't have control over a lot. And so you can't use your childhood as an excuse to live your adulthood a certain way, in my opinion. Um, and so that's where, addiction and mental health, obviously that adds a whole layer onto things. But, my mom definitely had stuff that she had to deal with that happened when she was a child. But again, she chose, like, the addiction was the way she was trying to cope with it for a long time. And so until she was kind of ready to not just, cope with it that way, she wasn't really ready to deal with it.
And with undiagnosed bipolar, I couldn't imagine trying to get. It was hard enough for me to get sober without. Well, I had other undiagnosed stuff, I guess, but yeah, I feel the same way. It's like if you know you're causing harm to other people, and it's all especially trauma based. If you're not actually diagnosed with anything other than PTSD, and you're still not figuring your own shit out, it's so hard being on the other side of it. Like, as a guy that was having mental health issues and addiction issues, I tell people all the time, I'm pretty sure it was as hard as it was for me to live my life, and as much as I struggled, I probably had the easier part because other people like see it, and they're completely helpless. Their hands are tied. Doesn't matter what they say or do. And it's like reasoning with a toddler at times or something. It's, I don't know. I say that, then other people get offended. They're like, no, everybody has it hard. And I suppose that's true too. But
I think what you just are saying is that you could appreciate what it was like for everybody around you to be going through that. And I think that's like, it's like, the victim versus, survivor mentality, right? Like we can't, it's also, there's a big part of, I'm going to forget the term right now, but like narcissism, right? Where like you can't start to have awareness of everybody around you if you're so narcissistic that you think you're the only one who's suffering.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember even begging my wife to like leave me, or to like, like, I mean, I did see the damage I was doing, but at the same time it was like, yeah. So it is like being on the other side. It's oh, it's so hard. Like, okay, I'm being super supportive and empathetic, but at what point are they taking advantage of me? And am I being, they're being codependent on me? And when do I
Mm,
cut it off? And am I cutting it off too soon? And uh, am I cutting off too late?
like they have their own journey. Like they have to deal with their stuff, right?
But I just the mind fuckery of it all being on the other side and trying to be supportive, but not be a doormat either. Like,
Oh,
where's that fine? Where's that line?
yeah.
And
I think my mom struggled with that a little bit too. Like I didn't have like my siblings all had kids much earlier. Like my husband, like I was in my 30s before I had children. And I mean, I think like she absolutely adored her grandkids, and especially when she started to get healthy, because they were obviously pulled away as well. I think that was a big part of the reason why she did get help, because like she didn't do it for us, but she did it for them, right? I'm not saying that like she was in a position in her life mentally and emotionally where she could, but obviously the grandkids were a big part of that.
right, you were
Um,
jealous. You're like, oh, stupid grandkids. Oh, you'll be
I
healthy for them.
I wasn't jealous, but I will tell you, one of my mom's sisters, my aunts, came to me and she said that she felt so sorry for us that she couldn't do it for us, that she did it for them.
Well, I like, but like you said, she just wasn't in that
No, and
place to be able to
that's
do
how
it.
I always saw it. I didn't see it like, obviously as a kid, I was so upset that, but as an adult, it was just like, no, no, no. I'm just glad that she's getting to this point. But I do think that she tried to overcompensate in ways that I'm sure she wouldn't have otherwise. So, like, every weekend she had the grandkids at our house, right? Like, she would do anything, to go see the grandkids doing something. And so, yeah, I definitely think that there were things that she tried to do that, without coming out and saying, I'm sorry, I couldn't do this for you, but I'm going to do this for your children, that she went over and above and beyond to try to be very present in the grandkids' lives and be there and be available.
Firstly, is she still around?
No, no. So,
Oh, okay, that's a whole other thing.
oh
I'll
God.
get to that.
Okay.
I'll ask about that. But when she was getting better, I guess
Mhm.
she was diagnosed and she's taking these steps. How many times have you seen her try to like get healthier? Was there trust issues, or were you like, oh, here we go again? Like
There's always going to be trust issues around that.
you're right. Yeah, I know. It's that's your own kind of PTSD and survival
Yeah,
tactic. That's why you're so hyper independent too when you're younger. It's yeah.
that's a really good question, Todd. I think that you're always. I think you are always ready for the other shoe to fall. And I mean, you try to grow your trust in that it's not going to happen the more time goes by. But I think you're always prepared. I would lie if I to say that I wasn't. And I think that you obviously bring her in and you bring her close, but not 100%.
You're cautiously optimistic, as they say.
And it literally is just because for 30 years, what I had experienced. It's out of self preservation for myself and for my heart and for my kids at that point too, because they were in my life. And so, yeah, it's unfortunately, I think that you're just trying to protect yourself. Like you're trying to help her, you love her to death, but you're trying to protect yourself.
Did you find yourself being like that with other people because of that, or was it just your mother?
It was just my mom. Like I definitely like I think that like we moved so many times, I was very restless. Like I didn't have a sense of like home was where my family was physically, not it wasn't an address, right? It was where we happened to now be. And so I think that that independence, that hyper independence, and kind of a restless feeling, I definitely took into my adulthood. The restless feeling, I would say in therapy towards the end of my 20s, I finally was able to deal with. And it definitely affected my relationship for sure. Like, I think it took me like 8 or 9 years to 100% let him in, like 100%. He was probably there 90 or 95, but he wasn't getting that last little bit. And I was always ready to like, you know, bolt. Like I was like, because this was just what was ingrained in me. Um, and so, but again, therapy helped. And kind of got me to that realization. But I mean, my sisters are very honest in saying that they did not get to that place at that age, and probably some of them don't feel that they will get to it.
I suppose because they had kids younger, they were just preoccupied, and you were deal with that earlier because you weren't as preoccupied.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it was different for them because mom was really not well, and so they were already dealing with the protection of their kids, right? I had my kids later, and so yeah, it was different.
So then your mom has passed. How long ago?
2017.
No, I did a episode once with a grief counselor,
Hmm.
and yeah, we had a pretty good conversation about complicated relationships and death and the emotions. There's grief,
Hmm.
there's guilt because you had resentment, but then the resentment comes back.
You know what's interesting about grief, though? I feel like I grieved my mom a lot in my life. Like, I grieved not having the mom I wanted when I was a kid, right? I grieved her not helping herself when we were begging her to help herself. Yeah, there were a lot of stages of grief, I think, when you're dealing with the situation that we were dealing with. But ugh. So my parents' relationship was on and off my whole life. And then obviously as adults, once everybody was out of the house, and I think my youngest sister was like 25, something like that, 22, 23. My parents actually got back together and they stayed together this time.
Oh, interesting.
So this last 10 years that we had with mom, which we didn't realize was the last 10 years, my dad was there. Like my dad was fully a part of it. And it was fantastic. And I mean, obviously my mom wasn't perfect, but, in a much, much better place. And their lives were filled with grandkids and kids. And then, yeah, it was 2017 Mother's Day. My mom went to the hospital and they found a massive, massive, like her chest cavity was filled with cancer. And so she had just started to like feel breathless and feel pain to the point where she was like, I better get this checked out. And she survived for 9 weeks. My aunt, one of her sisters, was diagnosed 2 weeks later, the same thing. And she passed away 4 months later. And then my dad was hospitalized for the first time 5 months after that, and he passed away. So in 10 months, we lost both of them. Yeah.
My God, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Uh, uh, and I mean, how do you process? I mean, you process stuff while they're alive, but then when they pass, especially when like how long? Oh my God, what am I trying to fucking say?
It's okay.
So you come to terms with your mom, and she's
Yeah.
doing better, and I don't know, maybe you didn't bury the hatchet, but like
Oh no, it
you've
was buried for
yeah,
sure.
so you've accepted her and everything's good, but how
Yep.
long from that point to when she passed?
Like 9 or 10 years. So I would say it was the most heartbreaking part of losing her was that she only got to live this life that she had, she fought so hard to get as well as she could. And like literally, it was probably the first 2 or 3 years were just like it was so hard for her. And so that was what I was angry about. I was just devastated for her.
And I can tell you, as someone in recovery, it is so hard. And
Yeah.
I know it's like, how hard can it be? Like if you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? Like it is constantly hard. Um, did you have some issues with your dad and you buried the hatchet with before he passed? No? Oh,
No,
okay.
no. Like I said, my dad was so intermittently in our lives, and he wasn't. There was no mental health or addictions with my dad.
But
So,
you didn't have resentments towards him because he was in and out? Like you understood because you're like,
oh yeah,
yeah, yeah, okay, gotcha.
we were
Gotcha.
all on the side of dealing with mom in that state. And I mean, obviously, especially now that I'm, as soon as I was an adult and was in a relationship with somebody, it was just like, oh my lord, I don't know how you even, yeah. But I mean, they loved each other, and they would get together. And I mean, dad was like a place for her to, all of a sudden this didn't work. Oh, I'm going to call your dad. And of course, my dad loved her to death and would take us in. But it would never last long, right? So it was always that throughout our childhood. But yeah, for sure, once they, I mean, my dad definitely had his own opinions about my mom's own story and what had happened, when she was young and with her family. But yeah, no, I like as a family unit, yeah, we were very close that last 10 years, very close.
I'm glad they were able to have at least those 10 years. Yeah. And again, I'm sorry.
Not a lot of people get there, so not a lot of families get there, right? Or sometimes the damage is so big by the time people get there that nobody's really left. So we definitely, like, I definitely see us as very lucky to have had that.
Oh, good. So now you took all that was kind of part of the inspiration of your podcast, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I, in 2016, I started, it was actually a leather bag business that handmade in Canada. And it was a social enterprise. So donations were made from every purchase to mental health. So whether that was that we would group with organization for a period of time and try to raise money for them, or if we were making donations to another organization, or if we were donating product to fundraisers, or whatever it was, I started to like publicly speak about it. I started a blog on the website for our company where all of these, somehow across all these places that I lived, all of my journals and my letters I have. And then when my mom passed away and we were helping my dad kind of sort their place, he found all of my mom's recovery journals. And so he gave those to me. And so I have all of this that I use in my writing about mental health. And then I'm also, it's been a project for a while, but I'm getting very close now to having like a traditional publishing outline done to do a memoir. And again, incorporating all of these. And so in the podcast, so basically Marty and Michael was happening, and it was ticking along, but production wise, I couldn't find a leather manufacturer in Canada. It got too big for me to do it on my own with my small team. In a nutshell, about a year and a half ago, I had to shut down the production side of it. But I'm very passionate about the mental health side of it. And even at that point, even with just being blogs and a couple of, I would speak sometimes, like I had so many, and I'm sure you've had this since you started this. I've had so many people reach out to me and just say thank you, and like they feel seen. And everybody has somebody in their lives that has been affected by mental health, whether it's them personally or it's somebody else.
And if you haven't, you're that person.
You haven't, you're not talking about it.
You're the person that everyone knows that. Anyway.
So I decided I wanted to keep going with the advocacy work. And so I named my company Marty and Michael after my parents. So when I moved into doing the podcast, I'm doing the podcast and I'm writing, and I might get to speaking. Speaking I find a bit tricky because it's such a deep emotional place that I have to go to, and I wouldn't want to do it for the wrong crowd. So I'm very particular about speaking. But yes, so I definitely, I'm going back to the reason why I started to do this in the first place, is that I really believe the more we can talk about mental health, the better. And it's the very beginning, but if we can at least start with some awareness and we can start with some education and some information, then hopefully there's going to be more compassion and empathy and more movement on, if I think about where things are now compared to when I was going through it, I hope kids or families that are struggling today can look ahead to 30 years. And I really hope things are much different.
And it's funny when doing this podcast too. It's also just normalizing these things so that, like, I don't know what am I trying to say? People are feeling seen, and they don't even know they had to be seen. Sometimes, like, holy shit, that's like they completely resonate with some wackadoo story that you think no one would ever resonate with, or even just a little piece of it, and that's just enough for whoever's listening to feel that way, to like just motivate them to get through the day, or to know that other people have lived through this and
They're not alone.
you're
Right.
not alone. Yeah,
Like that was
exactly.
one of the biggest things I felt as a kid, was I felt so alone. Like, I mean, yes, I had my sisters with me, we were going through it, but like you feel so lonely when you're in this experience of there's nothing to do. Nobody understands. Nobody's talking about it. Nothing's happening. Nothing's changing. Like, yeah. So it's huge. It's the very beginning of a step that hopefully is many steps, but it makes a huge difference.
It's a safe place for people to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
listening and vulnerable speaking.
Yeah. And again, like there's nothing bad is going to come out of the world with all of us being more vulnerable.
In some ways, I purposely put myself out there to be vulnerable with full expectations that this might backfire, but no regrets, because I mean, not being vulnerable,
Yeah.
that didn't get me very far either.
Well, and I imagine now, like you can't not be who you are, right? Like that, it's just that's who you are. So that's what you're going to lead with. So
Yeah, awesome. How many episodes do you have?
we did a season. We did one season of 14 episodes. So I was going to do weekly. And my editor, who's a really good friend of mine, and who way back from my film days, we've known each other, but he's like one of my best friends. He works full time, and he was like, "I would love to do this. Okay, let's do this." And he was like 14 episodes in, he's like, "Oh my god!" And so I'm like, no problems at all. It's also, I'm sure you have days like this too, Todd. It takes a lot to be talking about this all the time and to be, vulnerable and to be this open. I'm sure you're like me, you're very empathetic and very compassionate, and it's
Not really.
great. It's a great superpower, but we also need some downtime. We need some like, okay, I just need some, yeah. So I was finding that too. So anyways, we put it out. We did really well. We got top 20 on Apple for mental health podcasts, and
Damn it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I hate everything to do with podcasting except the talking to people.
I know. But like I said, I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But so we're right now, from September on, I've been in production and pre-production for the next season. So where I'm always going to launch them in the spring, just so that I can attach to like Mental Health Month in Canada. So
I never know when that is.
It
seems like every time I go on my Facebook or Instagram or something, it's like, it's Men's Mental Health Month. I was like, I thought that was June. And now it's like, I'm like, what is happening? It's like, it's Suicide Month.
Is in May.
Yeah, I'm just like,
yeah. I mean, there's lots of little ones. There's lots of little ones, but like,
yeah. But when you do live it every day, I mean, that's just how it is. It's like, what?
Yes. So we're hoping season 2 is going to be launched probably in April or March of 2026.
Awesome. I mean, I'm curious with your mom's journals that you got. I suppose did that even further your empathy?
So it's interesting. I think for me, it might have moved the needle. My mom was an amazing writer, but I already knew that about my mom, especially because when I lived for 7 years out west, like we would write to each other like religiously. And I mean, like 10-page letters. Like, so I already knew my mom was a beautiful writer. So I think that it did more for other people. Like, I think for me, it wasn't like, it was very much because I lived with her. I lived 8 minutes down the road for the last 10 years of her life. Like I knew what she had been going through and struggling with and had been dealing with. But I think like some of her sisters, for example, when they heard some of what she had written, they were just blown away, and they felt very, they wish they had known earlier. Like they really wish that they could have known how she was feeling, had either read these or had conversations with her that were more open and honest, and been able to talk about those things. So yeah, because they're very revealing, and mom's very honest about what it was like to be in her body and to go through the things and to do the things that she was doing.
Just another reason why we should talk about it, because you're going to regret not having these conversations at some point, whether you're going through it or someone might be going through something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're like, nothing's guaranteed, right? So like,
yeah. Well, death is guaranteed. Death and taxes.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, you're not like, I might not be here this time next year. Who knows, right? Like, you don't know. So
we live in a simulation anyway. It's all.
Well, if this is a sim, then I don't know. Like,
I'm obviously not paying for the pro version.
Me neither.
I'm the free for a month version.
I want a different sim.
Thank you to my guest today, Jennifer St. John. You can find her podcast, The Shadows We Cast, on all major podcast platforms. You can follow her on Instagram at Jenn_St. John or go to her website, jennstjohn.ca. Please rate and review Bunny Hugs and Mental Health on Apple Podcasts or whatever app you are listening on. Please follow me on Instagram at Bunny Hugs Podcast and on Facebook, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. If you enjoy the podcast and my guests, please go to buymeacoffee.com, and under Bunny Hugs Podcast, you can leave a one-time or a monthly tip. Any amount is extremely appreciated. You can find all my links in the show notes or at www.bunnyhugspodcast.com. Until next time, please remember to make your beds and take your meds.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.